And what a pleasure and a privilege it is to have Jonathan Adams to speak about this beautiful repertoire that he's offering us tonight. Jonathan, we are back to the 1600s. We have music by Purcell and many of his contemporaries for instrumental music. The text of the Purcell songs were also from that time. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, you choose texts that are for almost 400 years away. Yes. Why did you choose them, and what do they tell us today?
That's a great question. They are so expressive. They're so dramatic, these texts. Many of them are by William Fuller. And they are sacred texts. They were given as sermons, some of them were written as poetry. But they speak to the soul. They speak about humanness. They speak about doubt and faith and guilt, shame, but they also speak about faith in a positive light, about hope and about the joy that it brings the believer. So I've always been drawn to these songs because of the texts, in fact, yeah.
And it starts on a very dark note. The first text talks about this dismal dungeon. I mean, it's very, very dark.
Yes, in the dismal dungeon of despair.
Yeah, that is even more than that.
The black dismal dungeon, yes.
How do you live in there? How do you sing that?
Yeah, I think we have all, if I may say, been in the black dismal dungeon in our lives, perhaps. It's set in a very dramatic, chromatic and colorful way. But it's, yeah, maybe I'm a dark soul. I'm wearing all black today.
Yes, I see that.
But it's somehow so easy because Purcell makes it very relatable musically through his rhythmic precision. It's very close to speech, in fact, the way he sets these words. So yeah, they are both grandiose and very intimate and personal, I find.
So that's interesting what you said, the way that this despair is translated into music. You mentioned chromatic, you mentioned rhythm. He pays a very special attention to painting the words in a way.
Absolutely, yes. There's a lot of chiaroscuro inlaid within this text treatment. Huge variation in range and in melismatic passages, and then also secco recitative. So yeah, there's everything going on in these songs.
Almost like little opera scenes.
I would say so, yes. Yeah.
By the way, do you sing a lot of opera?
I don't, actually. I don't sing very much opera, but I love to sing sacred music in a staged setting. So that is something that I'm exploring more and more these days.
Back to Purcell, he was extremely popular at his time. He was a superstar in a way. So how come someone who composed such intimate and dark songs could be so popular in the public?
I think it was partly the fashion of the time. The idea of the melancholy was still very popular. I didn't sing this song that I'm going to refer to in this concert, but O Solitude is a perfect example of, the evocation of nature and of longing, of despair, but also somehow in a very charming way set by Purcell with beautiful harmony. And I think the same is true for these songs. Although these songs were perhaps more intended for an audience who's a less popular audience.
People of faith, or
people of faith, and educated folks of the time. But even so, I think that they can speak to anybody who hears them today and who's able to read the text, and because they're so human and so relatable.
well, let's not be completely dark. At the end, there is hope and ecstasy.
Exactly.
So the music must also translate that.
Yes, yeah.
So how does it sound different? What will we hear when it goes to hope and ecstasy?
Well, at the very end of the program, we perform Purcell's Evening Hymn, which is a gem of the repertoire, and it's set on a repeating ground bass, and we sing the words, "Now that the sun hath veiled his light, and bid the world good night, to the soft bed my body I dispose." So it's really this invocation of trust in God, to ferry you through the night's uncertainty, but which I love at the end of a program that's so filled with doubt, that everything's sort of going to be okay. Yeah.
And it's also the hint to find consolation in music.
Yes.
Many of us find that in our life. If you became a
Absolutely.
singer, maybe it's because you find also consolation in music.
Absolutely, yes. And I've been singing Purcell's music since I was 15 or 16. So he's been a longtime companion, and I absolutely find consolation and courage in some way to meet those doubts and to meet that angst because of those musical gems.
Just tell me a little bit about the instrumental piece that, of course, you don't sing,
Yes,
but
no.
the accompaniment of that. Did you discuss with the musicians which one you would choose to accompany the song?
Yes, we did. We, with Susie Napper and Melisande Corriveau and Eric Milnes, we found songs by contemporaries of Purcell and one short song of Purcell to interpolate the songs, to break them up a bit in a way that would give moments of light, of playfulness, but also would show what was going on at the time in non-sacred context.
Sounds like a very interesting path to follow you in. Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Looking forward to discover this wonderful music. If the despair is there at the beginning, take hope, because there is ecstasy at the end.